Hey, Matt.
Hey, Alexander.
Hey, how you doing?
You look pretty good. Are we live?
I think we are,
Okay. All right. So there's some people joined already.
but I think we should give people a few more minutes.
Yeah, of course. We'll wait till the allotted time. We've got 2 or 3 minutes before we're due to start, right? So I'll get everything lined up on the right screen. Welcome everybody who's already in.
How's my audio? Is it fine, or is there noise?
Sounding good? Yeah.
Okay.
How about me?
So how many sessions have you done today already?
Well, this is session number 1. Actually, I think the other one was a pre-recorded one for tomorrow. So,
Okay.
so this is my my one and only one today.
It's fun. It's funny. Sometimes it's hard to tell if something is pre-recorded or live. Actually,
Wow, that's the idea. Good thing.
you can't tell as a visitor. I mean, I can see it because I can see the. I'm an admin at the Hopin platform, but as a participant, you can't see it.
That's good. The thing I did have to remember, and will have to remember today, is whether I'm saying don't forget to visit to attend my other session, which I think is tomorrow, and when I was recording that, remembering which way round the things went, right, so I could make sure I was doing it in the right order. And there we go. Okay. We've got about another 30 seconds before we get started, and we're sticking quite rigidly to the 15 minutes, right?
Let's do that. I'm just gonna see if my headphones work, because then I can hear you better.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Audio still good on your side?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, all good.
Right.
I think we're at past, and I think we should probably get started.
Let's do it.
Welcome, everybody. This is a 15-minute workshop, and we're going to try and squeeze quite a lot into 15 minutes. It's a workshop about forecasting, and we figure if you want to learn about IoT forecasting, then you probably be well placed doing it with someone who's been forecasting the IoT market for over a decade, i.e. me. Why might you need to forecast things? All sorts of reasons, and pretty much it cuts across just about everybody and every function in IoT. So you might need to do it for a pitch deck. You might need to do it for setting targets for salespeople or any number of other things. But whoever you are, you probably at some point need to know how many of something you're going to sell and who you're going to sell it to. Well, not so much who you're going to sell it to, but how many you're going to sell anyway. You might also be interested to know all those forecasts of 50 billion connected devices, where those kind of things come from as well. More on that in my session tomorrow, which you might want to tune into. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a very narrow subset of it. Now, everyone looks at a different piece of the IoT market. You might be looking at rhino tracking in Mozambique. I think that was a use case that came up last year with somebody, or sluice gates in the Netherlands, or shipping containers worldwide, or any number of other things. Now, what I want to do today is give you some tips and tricks and ideas about how you might forecast any given market. Now, everyone's different, and we're going to pick one example. And for that, I'm pleased to welcome Alexander. If I don't know whether the people who are tuned in will already know who you are, but I wonder whether a word of introduction.
Yeah, sure. So, hi, welcome everyone. My name is Alexander Overtoom. I'm responsible for business development at the Things Industries. So I'm in charge of new service propositions, but also of the sales of our LoRaWAN network server. And in fact, forecasting is something that we do on a regular basis. What I try to do is calculate the number of devices that we can realistically connect to our network server. Yeah, we have a number of ways to calculate this, and we'll probably get to that in a minute. But this is something that I do on an annual basis to see what is realistic in terms of sales for the coming midterm and long term.
Okay, good stuff. Now, unusually, I'm going to be running this session in Excel. Now, this is the first time really that I've ever done this, so hopefully this is going to work. Now, obviously, when we're forecasting a particular part of the IoT market, we need to understand a little bit about it. So, Alexander, I think we decided that we'd be looking at smart metering. Was that the conclusion? Because it's a good, solid IoT space. And if we narrow it down to maybe smart metering in the Netherlands and maybe just the residential space, we'll look at that. But essentially, you'd build a model in a very similar way. So what I'm going to try and do now is build a model, getting some input from Alexander, and we'll kind of discuss a few things as we go, which will hopefully give you some guidance on how you might do it at home, well, or in the office, or wherever you are. Actually, the home is the office at the moment, so you know. Okay. First thing we'd need to do, look at the number of years that we want to model. Okay, typically we'd say maybe 3 or 4 years, but for something like smart metering, we might go a little longer. So what do we think? We go out 10 years maybe for this, Alexander? I think that would probably seem like
yeah. I mean, these are real like utility use cases, right? So once there's a decision to roll out smart meters, then you can be pretty sure that the cycles will be long, but also the lifetime of the meters will be very long. So I think having a long-term projecting over 10 or 15 years even would be a good way to start.
Well, we can expect that pretty much every meter is going to get connected at some point. So we say, okay, well, over the course of 10 years, we'll probably get to close to 100%, but we'll work on that basis. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to turn off the alert that's on my phone, which are beeping away. Okay, so then the first thing we have to think about is the universe. Okay, how many things can be connected? Well, if you're looking at something like smart metering, that's relatively straightforward. It's a constrained number. So you're looking at the number of households. That's effectively what that is the denominator for those of you who are mathematicians. Okay, so in the Netherlands, what we typically do is we do some research and find out how many households. But I'm going to figure there's somewhere around 6 million households in the Netherlands.
Yeah, I would say around 8. I think it's 8 million.
8 million, okay.
Yeah. So we're talking residentials, right? Not commercial buildings.
Correct. Now I figure there's probably going to be a small increase, so maybe a 0.5% increase in that every year, something like that. We can sort of assume that. So we bake in an increase there. Okay, so that's the universe. Then you're looking at the penetration. Okay. How many of those things are going to be connected? Now, sometimes you might actually have nested penetration. So, number of households, number of electricity households, how many of those have a meter, how many of those have a smart meter. But in this instance, we'll assume that every household has electricity, every electricity household has a meter. And then we would typically apply an S-curve to that. Now, rather than trying to create an S-curve generator, I'm going to use an S-curve that I built earlier. A little bit of a cheat for me, but I don't think it's unreasonable to do that. So we're making some assumptions about what percentage of meters will be smart meters. Okay, and that gets us to the number of things. Okay, so that times that gives us the number of things. And it's presented in percentage, which is unhelpful. Okay, so that's the number of things. You then want to work out what your market opportunity, what your market share is. Okay, so how many might you expect to sell or install or what have you. Okay, so there's two types of revenue. There's recurring and upfront, which have different dynamics. So you then want to look at net additions. Okay, so the net additions is that one minus that one. Okay, so that's how many the total base increased by over the year. Now, that's not quite the same as sales. Sales also includes churn, so you have to account for churn to get to a figure for gross additions. Now, what kind of a churn rate might you be expecting for smart meters, Alexander? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a guess, but I mean, when someone is onto a smart meter, then it's very likely they'll stay on for a long time. So I suspect this is a very low percentage, a couple of percent.
Yeah. Okay. So if we assume like 5%, which would give us once every 20 years, something like that. Now, this is a very basic way of calculating churn. You can do it over lifetimes of things. So I'm using a pretty basic way of doing it, but just to show that this is something you need to consider. So in order to calculate the gross additions, what we take is the net additions plus the number of connections from the previous year, and remove the churning. Hang on. 1 minus that figure, and that gets you to that figure. Okay, so we assume the churn is going to stay the same. This gets us to a gross additions figure. That's the number of sales in. No, it's not. Sorry, hang on a second. That is the figure. Okay, so what we're taking is we're taking the number of net additions, plus we're adding in a churn associated with the install base at the end of 2020, which means that not 244,000 sales in 2021, but 252. Now, obviously, because this is a new market, that slightly skews things, and you wouldn't expect churning devices in that first year. But as I said, this is quite a basic way of calculating churn, but we'll stick with it for the time being. We might also throw in here things like technology splits, but we don't really have time for that. I'm keeping a careful eye on my watch, and we've got 6 minutes and 44 seconds. So I'm going to stick with the basic numbers. Right. Two types of revenue. There's upfront revenue, which might be broken down. What do we think? We've got the device, we've got the meter itself, and other upfront revenues.
Revenues or cost?
Well, cost. Yeah. I mean, it depends how you think about
so
it.
You need to build the infrastructure, of course. So get the network out there.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking in terms of if there's already a network deployed, so you've got a service provider type of a model, and this would be okay. Yeah,
so you would have a per device cost, right? So it's like it becomes a subscription model because you're assuming that the infrastructure is there.
Yeah, correct. So you've probably got installation as well, right? So there's probably a cost or revenue associated with that.
Yeah, the installation of the meter. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So from that you can calculate device revenue and installation revenue. Okay, and so for the device, it's relatively straightforward. What you're looking at is the number of gross additions. Oh, hang on a second. Which is that? So you want, that times a device revenue figure, and then for installation, you're looking at the number of installations. So the gross additions time an installation revenue, and we would think a device might cost 100
less. Yeah, at volume less. Let's say 80 euros.
80 euros, and probably coming down over time, I would think.
Yeah.
So let's assume a 2% decline over time. Okay, and then the installation.
Yeah.
How much?
Well, I mean, we're in the Netherlands, right? So wages are pretty high. I would say around, and the places are probably hard to reach. So let's say maybe 150 euros per device.
Wow, it's a costly thing, and probably going up as well, right?
It's going up.
Inflation. Let's assume a 2% increase in that over time. There you go. So then that gets you to a set of device revenues or upfront revenues, and then you have recurring revenues. And recurring revenues would be connectivity. Yeah. We talked about technology a moment ago. Platform?
Yeah, like the data platform.
Yeah. Anything else, or is that probably the main two?
I think that's good. Yeah, I mean, this is high level, right? So these are the most important parts. Okay. Yeah.
So we then if we say put it in there, and how much? What would be the connectivity revenue per?
I would say
I've got those up the wrong way around, but never mind. Okay, so per device connectivity, or
maybe 50 cents per device per month, so €6 per year.
Yeah. Okay, so we put in an annual figure for that, €6, and for the platform,
probably similar, maybe a little bit higher, say 9.
Okay, which would so then you have to multiply. That's an annual figure, and you need to then look at the number of installed devices. So you're timesing that by not the actual number, but hang on, the mid-year figure, because they're only subscribers for on average 6 months. So you're looking at a half-year figure, which gives that kind of a number. And then if we make it stick on there, then we can copy that to there as well. Okay. Now for the connectivity revenue, what do we assume? Increasing over time, decreasing over time? Same with the platform.
I would say decreasing over time, because I would guess this becomes a commodity.
Okay, so let's assume a 5% decrease across both.
Yeah, because if the network providers are doing a good job, then there will be competition, and that means driving down costs.
Yep. There's also an issue here which I should raise, which is about normalization, right? In many cases, people might be paying upfront or on a recurring basis, but actually it's to pay for a device. So you take a handset, right? Let's switch to standard mobile, talking about standard mobile. Sometimes you walk into a shop, pay X amount per month for a contract, and you'll get a free phone. Now, does that mean we wouldn't count the equivalent thing in IoT as having any device cost? No, of course not. And I think we make some assumptions about how you allocate these things, and that's one of the things that we'll typically be doing, normalizing that, making sure there's something sitting in each of the categories. What I was going to do next, and I noticed I've only got 1 minute left, so I was going to talk about working out your market share, and here's one I prepared earlier, just for such an eventuality, in case we didn't quite have enough time. So what you might do then is put in market share figures, work out percentage of shipments, work out percentage of installed base, and percentage of, therefore, upfront revenue and recurring revenue. Crikey, okay. So we've got literally 30 seconds left. It's this has been quite a challenging thing to squeeze down into 15 minutes.
Yeah.
We'd love a longer time period. If anybody's got questions about how you forecast your market share, do drop me a line. I think my contact details are probably available through the conference portal, or tune in for my session tomorrow. That would be a good thing to do. I think we barely scratched the surface of this, but Alexander, thanks for your input. Anything else from you?
Yeah, no, well, I mean, only just one thing. I mean, this was very high level, and if you want to take a deeper look at the total cost of ownership of the, let's say, maintenance of your network, then I'm also happy to talk about that, because we have gained a lot of experience with that in the past couple of years. So come otherwise meet me at the Things Industries booth, because we can dive a bit deeper into that.
All right, awesome. Thank you all for joining. Sorry this has been so brief. It probably needed 2 or 3 times as much time, but there we go. We have 15 minutes and we've done what we can in the time available. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, Matt.